If you haven't done step one, you'll see in a second, step two is impossible to do. And then step three is the same, and step four is the same, and so on and so forth. So it needs to be done in this order.
Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast with the amazing Dr. Lona. Dr. Lona, how you doing, lady?
I'm doing great. Sun's out here. Had a morning in practice. Now I get to talk to you. It's a good day. How are you, Bobby?
I love it. And of course, myself, Dr. Bobby. Unfortunately, I should say, the sun is just coming out here. So it's 5 a.m. for me. And I'm stoked to be recording this episode with you early morning. I find that early mornings, Lona, are really some of the best time that I get my most productive work done. I found that a few years ago about this idea of the 5 a.m. club. And, at that time I used to think to myself, man, 5 a.m., only crazy people get up at 5 a.m., right? So I started to say, well, let's see if I can be a crazy person. I started getting up at 4:30 a.m. And I must say now, after the last couple of years of doing that, that time from 4:30 until 6 is, I would say, my most productive time in the day. I managed to exercise. I managed to do my breath work. I managed at that time also to ice bath. Now it's a new thing that I've started. And then really at 6 o'clock when I start doing work, the next hour and a half to 2 hours, I get so much stuff done. It's crazy. And most people are actually just getting to work. So awesome being here with you at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I'm not sure if you experienced the same thing.
That's awesome. And that is a book called The 5 a.m. Club that teaches, I think, that principle. So I don't
It
know.
is. And I've read that book and it's amazing. Definitely recommended by Robert Sharma, guys, the 5 a.m. club when you get the best work done. So I'm excited because today, one of the things that we decided we need to chat about is this idea, Lona, that we both had. So you heard about our journeys in previous episodes. And I know when you and I were chatting, we both had this realization that in the early days, especially before we understood this concept that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to probably talk about that in the following episode as well, because it's a big concept, but it's a very important one to understand. Both of us talked about how, we thought that I just need to learn the systems, right? Like I want to grow. I'm launching this office. I want to get to 100 visits a week or 150 as quickly as possible, right? And then I want to get to 300 and then I want to get to 400 and 500 as quickly as possible. Just teach me the systems, man. I want to know the systems. And we both thought like, just teach me the systems, teach me how to get the new patients in. All right. Then I realized, teach me how to convert them. I've got to know how to do a day one and day two properly. And then teach me what I do to retain them. They're dropping out, Lona. I used to think it was just teach me the systems. And then I realized, you know what? Two people are doing the exact same systems, yet they're getting wildly different outcomes. And so it was brought to my attention at the time that, you know what? There's not just one thing you need to know to be successful in practice. It's not just a matter of teach me the systems. It's not just a matter of showing me how to attract and bring these new people in, convert them and retain them, right? But there's actually 5 other things that you need to know. And we in the Remarkable Practice talk about this as the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube, because can you solve a Rubik's Cube in real life, Dr. Lona, by the way, out of curiosity, able to do it?
Hey, I actually solved my first Rubik's Cube this past week because my 8-year-old has, I think, about 20 Rubik's Cubes, all of different shapes and sizes. So I was like, all right, I'm watching him fiddle with these things. I'm like, I got to sit down and actually learn the rhythms and the algorithm and they have their own right prime, left prime, how they talk about it. So I can say yes now. I have solved one.
I love it. I had this cousin who lives in England, and I remember when I was youngster, like maybe 8 or 9 years old, this guy was an IT guy, and his brain was very much thought in like systems, programming, coding, right, IT, and he was unbelievable at it. He would solve it in like 25 seconds. He would even sometimes do it like where he would create a pattern. So he'd be like, all right, I'm going to put 5 reds in the all yellow wall. Then I'm going to put 5 yellows in the all red wall. And he'd create these crazy patterns. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
it's a system to even solve the Rubik's Cube, right?
Sure. Mhm.
I love that you can solve it. So the reality is we both found out that, you know what, there's 6 things that you need to know, and you need to know it in this order. And we call it the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube. And just like when you solve a Rubik's Cube, you've got to solve it one side at a time. And just like when you solve a Rubik's Cube, if there's one side that's jacked up, it jacks up the whole Rubik's Cube. Like you don't complete the puzzle. Like literally, if there's one side that doesn't have a couple of pieces where it should be, the whole Rubik's Cube is not solved, right? So you've got to, when I watched my cousin do this thing, he would always solve, all right, one at a time. So first side, second side, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, right? And it was amazing though, when he got really good at it, how he could do it in 25 seconds. And it really reminds me a lot of practice, because you see people, how is it that someone can go from, I'm struggling, I've got no idea what to do and how to grow this thing, to a few years down the track, after they get some proper guidance and after they get some proper help and mentoring and coaching and support, next thing they're multiplying and they're doing multiple offices. Or maybe they're one office multiplying and you talk to them, and we have visibility into their office, and now they're at 4 associates, 5 associates, they're scaling, they're 1,000 visits a week, 1,500 visits a week, right? It's amazing how when you learn to solve it, you can start replicating that solving in multiple locations. What's your experience been with that? What have you found?
Yeah, I think a mentor early on said to me, what would happen if you took a person that saw 50 visits a week and put them in an office that sees 500 visits a week, and then take that doctor that's used to seeing 500 visits a week and put them in the 50 visit. He's like, within 6 months, they'd all be back to where they need to be. Like the one doc would have lost all the patients and the other doc would be seeing 500 a week, And there's so many factors to that, which is why the Rubik's Cube is such a great analogy. But that's why we got to dive into it, because you're probably wondering, well, what are the 6 sides and how do I start to get them to work so I can solve my practice in the right order that needs to happen and keep changing with, as I grow. So it's a great.
Absolutely. Really great point. I heard that as well. I used to hear that back in the day. If you swap them around, what ends up happening? They get back to the level they used to, right? Because it's the level they're functioning at. All right. So without further ado, I hear you talking about it, guys. I hear you saying, tell me, what are the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube? So, okay, pull a pen out. Definitely, this is one that you want to be writing down with. Or if you're listening to this and you're in the car and you're in the gym, pay careful close attention. We're going to point out for you what are the 6 sides. Now, it's important. I want to pre-frame and say this to you first. When you're solving a Rubik's Cube, it's not just about solve these 6 sides in any order. Okay, it's not a case of like, oh, I'll put my systems in first, then I'm going to go away and I'm going to do this next and this next. No, my strong advice to you is the Rubik's Cube needs to be solved in this order. So there's 6 sides to it, 1 to 6, and we've got to solve it in the order of number 1 first. And we're going to highlight for you what 1 is, what 2 is, what 3 is, okay? And I really want to highlight stress that it needs to be done in this order. And the reason for that is it's almost like a precursor that step 2 actually depends on you to do step 1 properly first. So when you've done step 1 properly first, then you actually have the ability to do step 2. And if you haven't done step 1, you'll see in a second, step 2 is impossible to do. And then step 3 is the same, and step 4 is the same, and so on and so forth. So it needs to be done in this order. All right, so let's get stuck in this. 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube. Here is what's needed in order to grow, scale, exit successfully. You need to be aware that there's 6 things you need to know, okay? And the 6 things, surprise, surprise, number 1 always starts off with vision. Dr. Lona, why don't you take us through, what does vision mean? When we talk about, all right, solve what first side of the Rubik's Cube, vision, what do I have to do? What does that mean? How do I solve the side of vision?
Yeah. Oh, I love talking about vision. Vision is probably my favorite part of the Rubik's Cube. And, as someone who sits in the CEO seat, that is like really our full-time job. So if you are the owner of your practice and eventually aspiring to be where you have more people working with you, vision cannot be skipped in your position. You are the leader of everything that is going to unfold. Therefore, it has to come from your mind first, in your mind's eye of like, where are we headed? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Like, what's the bigger idea of what's happening in these 4 walls of my practice? So we all go into practice to help people, but why did we open our 4 doors? Why does this business exist? Where are we trying to go in 12 months from now? Where are we trying to go in 3 years from now? Or like, ultimately, what's the bigger picture I see? And this is where you get to be like playful and like excited about, you don't have to have all the reasons why maybe you think you can't get there. This is where you really get creative. And probably the reason why I like this the most is it's fun to just think like, yeah, what would be possible? Wouldn't that be cool if we solved this issue? Or what if like the whole community was getting adjusted? Or what if like in one of our businesses, what if we could go into the school district and be adjusting all the kids? Like, this is where vision lives and breathes, is in this like possibility of what could happen. And then you can start to get in the meat and potatoes of the other steps that will need to come from your vision, which is why you can't skip this step. So, Bobby, I can only imagine you are a guy that carries a big vision. So how about you? What do you kind of go through when you're envisioning?
So I just want to highlight something here, guys, and I wanted you to see, like, as soon as we start talking about vision, how excited Dr. Lona gets. So you can see in her energy, right? You can see in her voice, and that's exactly what needs to happen. So for me, Lona, vision, when I start with the first side of the cube, for me, here's what it means. Okay. You need to sit down and get present with yourself and get in touch with yourself and ask yourself this question: what does success look like for me? Okay. Because be careful, you're going to spend a lifetime pursuing it. So you need to understand, what does success look like for me? And no two people are the same. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. Okay. Now, we like to say in our Untitled practice that you need to have crystal clear clarity for your 12-month vision story, which means if I was to ask you, close your eyes, we're sitting here 12 months from now, okay, describe, and you're stoked with how your business looks, with how your life looks, okay, because it's about having a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, guys, not instead of one. You want to have all aspects of your life humming along beautiful and actually absolutely in love with. I'm in love with all aspects of my life. So you want to be able to answer that question. What does success look like for you? You need to have crystal clear clarity 12 months from now. Okay. And then you need to have somewhat clarity 3 to 5 years from now. And I can tell you, Lana, over the years, with all the docs that I talk to and people, they reach out for help and people reach out for answers and teach me how to do this system. And Bobs, tell me, how do I fill up a room? I see you guys are doing workshops every couple of weeks. There's 40, 50 people, I can imagine you pulling in a lot of new patients. Now teach me how to do it, right? And as soon as all I have to do is ask them 1 or 2 vision related questions, and that might be something along the lines of, well, why do you want to do that? Okay. Or, hey, well, tell me this, what's the awesome outcome that you'd want to achieve? Or what's the reason that you want to start doing workshops and start getting a lot of newies into the office? The clarity of that answer is directly proportional to the success they're going to have executing the system. And I can tell you, the most frustrating people are the ones who give you these cloudy answers of like, oh, well, yeah, like I'm going to get busier, or something a high level that really tells me they haven't thought about and they're not actually quite sure what their vision story for success is 12 months from now. Have you found that as well, Lona? What's been your experience with this when you talk to DCs that have a clouded vision?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to skip this part because someone cannot do this for you. So they want to go to this part that feels like there's going to be more action steps, but like you said, like this is what should pull energy through you. Your vision is like the life force in your practice, right? And so when we skip that, then we're not going to get the results on the other end because we don't have the energy pulling through it. That we don't, the vision, it should carry the reason why we're going to do the next steps, the bigger picture of it all. So to skip it or to want someone else's vision, don't get me wrong, we can like wear our mentor's confidence and gain ideas from other people, certainly, but it has to really resonate. And as chiropractors too, I think I always thought this is interesting, is that we sometimes, even though we preach the big idea and we preach like above, down, inside out healing, we sometimes don't do that for our own practices, which need to come from above, down, inside out also. It has to be your version, your vision, your definition of success. And this is true in your life too, right? Your practice is a part of that. So the vision part of it is it's so important that you're spending just as much time on vision as you want to spend on some of these other things.
100%. Spot on. You hit the nail on the head, right? And guys, that clarity of vision is going to be essential because, like Dr. Lona said, there's going to be tough days. Okay. Business isn't about just everyday compounds and compounds and compounds. And, I've seen that graph before where they talk about the entrepreneurial life, and it's not just this, steady line that goes up and up and up, how we imagine it to be, but instead it goes up and down and left and right in circles, right? But if you zoom out, right, and you stay focused for a long enough period of time, that line does actually steadily go up, right? So in those down days, in those days that you're feeling dejected, you're feeling defeated, in those days where you're questioning, oh, this is really what I should be doing. In those days that, you're sitting there in that dark spot thinking, man, this is so freaking hard, right? Or you just run down exhausted. And believe me, we've all had them, guys. The thing that pulls you through that is clarity around your vision story. and going back to what you should have done in the beginning and going back to your vision about, hang on, why do we do this in the first place? What's the reason that we open the doors to our office? What's the reason that we decide to multiply and have 10 offices? What's that motivating factor? You've got to be able to anchor yourself back there and go, well, here's our vision story. This is what we see. This is why we're doing this. And let me give you a big clue here, guys. When you are carving out your vision story, okay, it's well and good to make the vision story about yourself. In the beginning, right, that vision story for me, Lona, was like, I'm really busy. I studied so many years. I want to, now start making this income. My friends are making great income, right? Okay. But the most powerful visions that you'll ever hear are not about you. They're visions that people genuinely hold, and they're vision that people genuinely hold about somebody else. Which means if your vision story is about somebody else benefiting, evolving, growing, having a better quality of life, having a better future, those are the most powerful visions. Now, here's one thing also that is really, really relevant to understand. As society, you'll hear this all the time. What's your vision story? What's your vision story, right? We expect people to be visionaries. However, not everyone is a natural born visionary. In fact, Simon Sinek estimates that 15% of people, right, are natural born visionaries. However, get this, here's what he also says. He goes, even though not everyone is a visionary, everybody will find a vision. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to grow a business, I want to grow a practice, I want to have a remarkable business as part of a remarkable life, one thing I know is down the track, you're going to need to have teams, people that are going to help you scale, manifest this vision, people that are going to help you reach heights that probably aren't even unimaginable. And attracting those people and the quality of people that you attract will be directly proportional to the clarity of your vision. And if the vision is about you, that isn't very attractive to anyone. But if the vision is about others, that is like a magnet, and you attract the best people in the world by having clarity of vision. Now, people then ask, well, where does my vision come from? And Lona, maybe you can speak into this a little bit more. But we know that for me, vision has two parts to it. The vision itself is what does success look like for you 12 months from now? Okay, but how do I get a vision that's actually going to excite me, that's going to motivate me, that's aligned? Well, that vision needs to be aligned with your core values, and core values is part two. So the other thing that we need to understand is, what are our core values? What are your personal and what are your business core values? Those things that are most important to you, because every human being has a set of core values, right? And it's really interesting, Lana. I'll tell you a little story here. So my background is Serbian, right? Eastern Europe. But I live in Australia. I do a lot of work. I'm in the US all the time, right? In the Western world. So in the Western world, if somebody says something about your mother, right, that's a massive insult. It's like, what did you just say about my mom, right? When I go over to the eastern side, when I go back to Serbia, right, to like my family and whatnot, mothers are like used and insulted in conversations all the time, right? So, and normal, it's like normal. It's like the way that we joke around with like other people that are, in the beginning, it's really hard. It's like, what? And so obviously in this side of the world, guys, that's a core value. Like if somebody says something about your family or insults your family, that's like, whoa, because what's it done? It's contradicted your core values, right? And so core values, when you're clear with them, that's what unearths your vision. What are your thoughts, and what do you know about core values? How do we work them out? Give some tips and advice. What do you know about core values? I know you're a master in this space.
Yeah. So, well, I want to go back to also when you said like, how do you get your vision? Like, and I think, don't get me wrong, doing left and right brain exercises around this needs to be, yes, some things that are like very cut and dried, but also this is like the thing that you wake up and you can't stop thinking about. And like when you feel the most energized, or like, I also think innate leads us to our vision and our purpose. So as you kind of pay attention internally and externally and see what's like coming through for you, maybe you have this beautiful vision to have a pediatric practice and to be serving pregnant women and babies. And so it doesn't really align with when you're in a pain-based practice, right? Like that would be like, let's move with the vision and where the energy is, what you really love. Or, for us, like one of our visions is that kids will get adjusted in all schools across the nation and hopefully eventually the world. And when I first heard that vision, I was sitting in a room and another chiropractor had us go through this visualization of like, what does the world operate like when people know what we know, And instead of asking if they've had like immunizations to enter kindergarten or their first year of school, like what if it was like a form that said, has your child had a chiropractic checkup? And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, I don't know if that'll ever happen. And and I was in a room full of very principled chiropractors, so I certainly wasn't going to say that like, hey, I don't know if I see that vision happening. And the man that was speaking, the doctor that was speaking, he said, if you can't see this, shame on you. You're actually part of the problem. And at the time, I was learning about how our thoughts create resonance and our vision creates resonance, like in the quantum field, really. And so it doesn't cost us anything to spend time thinking bigger visions about the role chiropractic can play, maybe the role your office could play in your community. And that's where that attractive, Bobby said the word manifestation comes in. So, you know, if you haven't caught a big vision yet for yourself, don't worry, it's there. You just got to start playing with these thoughts and also listen to like what's coming at you and when you feel energized. And then that also kind of leads you into like starting to pay attention to like, what do I value? Because we all say things like, oh, I value family, right? Because you're supposed to say that. But many times, if you actually looked at like where you're spending your extra money, your extra energy, your extra time, like that's going to be a better a delineator of like what you actually value. Now, maybe it is your family. That would be beautiful, but it might be things also like knowledge. I value like reading all the time and gaining more knowledge. And I love like investing in my potential or concepts that just really stand out to you. Like maybe it's I don't know, integrity or efficiency or what have you. And those are things that then help you understand too, like how you want your vision to be embodied as principles.
Yep.
So
Spot on the mark. I love that. When my wife and I sat down and we're doing this for our personal life, like what are our personal core values? Because I know, and I would hear Dr. John DeMartini talk about this. Every single person has a set of core values from things most important to least important. And we sat down, we looked at that, and then we looked at that for our practice, and we're like, really, like core value number one for our office. The reason why it exists for us is health. We believe that health is the groundwork to all happiness. And if you have health, you can possess any goal that you want and achieve it. But if you lose your health, you really only have one goal, you hear people say. And that one goal they say is, I want to get my health back. So we said, look, health is the number one core value of our business. And so as a result of that, that's one of our primary drivers. That's why when we say, should we do a dinner workshop and spend $1,000 to put 50 people in a room that are complete strangers, because it gives us the opportunity to get those people to come in and get checked for subluxation and start care in our office, because I know it's going to help their health. Well, core value number one for us is health. Okay. Core value number two for us is tribe. We want to create a sense of belonging. Will that be aligned with those core values? Yes, it will. And when I thought about that, my vision lit up. I was like, man, that'd be sick. Imagine every single month or every 2 weeks, right? Or every week going out and speaking to just a room packed full of people, knowing that the majority of those rooms at the end of my talk today, at the end of when I start speaking, are going to be coming in and starting a relationship with us in our side office, where we're actually going to facilitate a process that gets them healthier, our core value, our number one core value. Yes, that's something that we've got to do. So your core values can really, when you understand them, guys, help you unearth your vision and help you find something that's motivating for you, that's inspiring for you. And that when you think about it, like Lona said, you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you think about. You're stoked, right? You can't wait to get out there. You can't wait to get it done. So first side of the Rubik's Cube, vision, right? Now, here's what we said. One side leads into the next, because check this out. Side number two, okay, if you've done side one first, then you can actually do side two. You can complete the second side of the Rubik's Cube. And we call the second side of the Rubik's Cube leadership. Lona, why don't you take us through, what does leadership mean? When I hear leadership, second side of Rubik's Cube, I've got to figure out leadership. What does that mean for me? What do I need to do? What do I need to figure out? Talk to me about leadership.
leadership starts with yourself. And certainly in our practices, we're going to be leading those people that we attract into our practice. We're going to be leading a team eventually, hopefully. Eventually, it might be in a more of a CEO capacity. So now we're really leading a larger team. And we're also pioneering chiropractic around the world, right? So it's a concept that so many people don't understand yet. So there's like no question in my mind, if you're listening to this podcast and wondering if you're a leader, yes, you are. Our CAs are leaders too. But it starts with understanding ourselves and looking within and starting to understand, like, well, how do I lead? Like, what type of personality am I? What am I, generally like as like kind of my innate wiring, right? Are you someone that notices like all the details, or are you a bigger picture leader? Are you someone that is generally like statistically motivated and like the facts and all the like hard lines around things? Or are you someone who's like seeing the vision is very easy for you because that's like you love being in like the conceptual part of this? And so the more you start to understand who you are, the easier it is also to see how you're going to have to step into certain characteristics, as well as start to build a team around you, which eventually is what we'll get into. So leadership starts with yourself. Who do I have to be to lead this vision? And like what type of knowledge and coaching and maybe unearthing and weeding through things that maybe don't fit with that am I going to need to do to become someone that can lead this vision? So Bobby, I'd love to hear your thoughts actually on like stepping into leadership, because I know for myself, I have felt like there's been many versions of me that have had to like be unearthed to carry a vision that keeps growing, as well as to step into like things that have made me really uncomfortable, but were growth opportunities along the way. So what about for you?
Yeah, Lona, I think that all you've got to do is wherever you're watching this from now, here's a great little exercise that you can do right now, right? You can do this in the car if you really want. And just look at the results that you're getting today. All right. So look at the good outcomes from what you've achieved today. If you're early in practice, a great outcome is, man, I graduated chiropractic school, right? Maybe if you're in build and you're seeing 150 people a week, you're like, well, I actually built 250 visits a week. Maybe you're a scale doc that has like 3 associates, that's got 4 associates, maybe that's got a team. You're feeling that they're not being optimized. You're feeling they're not really hitting their straps and hitting their potential, right? But the thing is, you've built so far a team, right? There's like, a team of 3 or 4 DCs there of like that's amazing achievement. So if you look at the current version of yourself that you are right now, and then ask yourself the question before you have what you have right now. So the previous version of you, maybe that was 2 years ago, maybe that was 3, maybe that was 5 years ago, right? Is it safe to say that the person that you are now today is a different version than that of yourself that you were 3 to 5 years ago? Okay. I know for me, Lona, today we're a multi-DC, multi-location office. The kind of leader that I have to become, that I am now, is absolutely different compared to the person 10 years ago when I first graduated chiropractic school, that I was like, I want to grow, I want to see my first 100 people and just start helping people making some money, right? So that tells you as a leader, I had to go through an evolutionary process. And that person from 10 years ago, if you put them now in my position to do what I do today and lead the organization and the multiple businesses that we have, could they do it? No. What would happen is they would lead it back down to their level of headspace at that while I was at that point. Because people, guys, in your organization, okay, if they outgrow your vision, if they outgrow you as a leader, they will go and find another leader to follow. Quite frankly, that's what happens in life, right? Simon Sinek said, remember, everybody will find a vision. So for me, leadership, you said a key word there, and that word is unearthing. I love to, for this one, tell people to get present with yourself. Get into a mirror if you need. Ask yourself this question when you're focused, right? And the question is, what kind of person or what kind of leader do I need to become? So once I'm clear with the vision that I'm trying to manifest, here's what I want to achieve, guys. Here's how my office I want it to look, okay? And you should be able to say, Dr. Lona, Dr. Bobby, close your eyes. Here's what I see. And you should be able to tell us exactly what your vision story is for success, so that when we open our eyes, we can say, got it. I see it, makes crystal clear sense for me. Absolutely. And then we can go through a process and go, all right, well, the person that you're going to be when you actually manifest that vision is completely different than the person that you are now. So the question that we've got to already do now on the front end is ask ourselves, well, what kind of leader do I need to become? What attributes do I need to develop? What skill sets maybe am I deficient in? Which areas right now do I not in my life complete to the level that that kind of person needs to complete? And a great tool to use here is what I call a virtual board of advisors. And a virtual board of advisors mean sit down and actually write down who's on your board of advisors. And here's the beautiful thing when it's virtual. You can put anyone on that board that you respect on some level. So if you look at BJ Palmer, which I look at BJ and I go, man, there's this guy who from his father gets this thing called chiropractic that no one's heard about. And you fast forward to today, and this is like, a worldwide profession that every single day is serving millions of humans globally. And he was the one that developed that and took that to the masses. Like, that's phenomenal. So I put him on my board of advisors, right? If you respect how your parents have executed part of their life, great. Put them on your board of advisors. If you look at anyone, like name a name, Elon Musk, doesn't matter what it is, you put them on your board of advisors and ask yourself the question, what specifically about this person do I value? What specifically about this person is attractive to me? And then whenever you're faced with circumstance in your business, because you're making decisions daily, just sit down, gut check yourself and ask yourself the question, what would that version of myself do? Or that person I'm trying to become, what would they do? What would BJ do in this situation, right? If he was considering and thinking about, you know what, do I start leveraging social media effectively so that I can just get hundreds of people into my office effectively, guys? Every single month, right? BJ will be all over that. He'd be like, totally, absolutely. So it tells me, all right, cool. My board of advisors can start to advise me about what's the leader that I need to become. But leadership is an unearthing process. I love that you use that word. That's huge. Yeah, absolutely.
I love
So,
that. BJ on your board of advisors, everybody. That's a good idea.
right? Totally. And that's typically, you can put anyone that you want, anyone, because there's people in your life, I guarantee you guys, whether you know them or not, that you, on some level, you have massive respect for that individual, right? If there's chiropractic mentors that you've heard speak or that you've met somewhere along the line, right? Great. You can put them on your board of advisors. You can hire people. You can hire coaches, hire mentors. There's going to be things that when you get on the phone and talk to people, you're going to love about them. You're going to be like, man, I love this about you. I love the energy that Dr. Lona always has and that she brings, right? And she's been in practice for how many years, but she's just as energized as fizzed up today, living a life on purpose. I've got to talk to her, right? I've got to find out where that comes from. And if you're someone that's finding yourself, on this roller coaster emotions, one day up, one day down, one day up, one day down, and you're like, man, how can I lead a team or lead an organization like that? Or maybe I am leading one and, I'm seeing it in the results. You're going to get someone like Dr. Lona, put them on your board of advisors, right? And you'll start to take attributes from her that you love and you value, and you'll start to see them in yourself. So second side of the Rubik's Cube, we call it leadership. And that's an internalized process where you get to look at yourself and ask yourself those tough questions, right? Because only once you've done that, guys, and only then can you look at the side 3 of the Rubik's Cube. And side 3 of the Rubik's Cube, Dr. Lona, what's the third thing we need to solve?
It's systems, which is, Bobby, I know you've been jonesing to get into some systems because, like you said, it was like the thing that you're like, just teach me the systems. But we could spend probably a full year talking about systems and how to leverage systems and build out systems and see where you're deficient in systems. But give us a high level overview here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be going deep, guys, in future episodes on all systems of building a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life. But absolutely, third side of the Rubik's Cube is systems. So we need to systematize anything that you want to become predictable. Full stop. So if you want predictable growth, and I say a principal chiropractic office, its natural state should be predictable growth. Because think about this. Through your systems, you should have a way to attract people, educate them, and I like to call them mining and turning them into diamonds. And after a while, you just collect enough diamonds, enough people that get this, guys, share similar core values and share similar visions for the world, for their health, for family, for the community. And think about this. After a while, you collect 500 people, 600 people, 800 people, 1,000 people. Every quarter should grow when you're doing this properly that say, yes, I understand and I see the value of being checked and adjusted every single week, okay? And you got 1,000 people that are coming every single week being checked and adjusted, and they're like friends because you guys are like aligned when it comes to core values. So systems is about, right, how do we then, if it's going to be reproducible, we need systems around attraction. We need reliable ways to get new patients into our door every single month. And the volume of new patients is relative to the size of our office and how many DCs we have. So if you're adding associates, you're going to have to increase reliably the amount of new patients that you're getting every single month. We just right now in one of our primary offices went from a 4 DC office to a 5 DC office. I literally just have another associate starting today, first shift today. And you know what the majority of last quarter was spent with him as well is planning the attraction systems. We're going to have to increase by an extra 25 new patients a month to fuel him now. So he's growing, he's hitting his goals, right? So you need a reliable way to get new patients. That's attraction. Then we've got conversion. But to line up, what does conversion mean? So I need systems around conversion. What does that actually mean? What I need to learn, what I need to develop.
Yep. So conversion is that process of onboarding someone into the office. It's like taking them from they think it's this. They maybe step foot in the door hoping that they're getting help with back pain or something, and you're starting to convert them into someone who's begun the process of chiropractic, is starting to understand more about why the adjustment and why this care plan is laid out, so that hopefully they can then matriculate into the next part of this, which is retention, systems around. Now you have someone who fully understands chiropractic, hopefully is a raving fan of it, and is referring more people into that front door again. So you start the process all over again of attraction, conversion, retention. But there's a million things that can be done properly, both from you as the DC and the owner, but also the way you train your staff through that conversion and retention cycle, to leverage the system to get better results, as well as to fulfill the goals the patient had, and hold them accountable.
Yep, I love it. So for me, conversion is how do I take someone and turn them into a believer? Conversion is an emotional process. So through your day 1, day 2, and even day 3, day 4 processes, how do I convert somebody properly? Remember, it's emotional, and they're a believer. Retention, on the other hand, is how do I take a believer, someone who believed me, and now educate them and turn them into an understander, someone who understands chiropractic just like how you and I do. So we need predictable systems, guys, around attraction, getting new patients in, conversion, properly converting them into care with honest expectations and agreements, and then retention, educating them so they understand the value of adjustments just like how you and I do. So there you have it, guys. Those are the first 3 sides of the Rubik's Cube that you need to solve. Number 1, vision, clarity of vision. Number 2, what leader do you need to become? Leadership. Where do I need to improve? Number 3, systems. I need to start now developing predictability around attraction, conversion, retention. The first 3 sides of Rubik's Cube, once they're solved, all right, then we can really roll up our sleeves. And these are next 3 that we're going to talk about. I would say these are the ones that really help you scale. When you get these next 3 in order, all right, this is, guys, when the rocket is going, but now we're going to turn on the thrusters, boost the engine. We're going to take this thing into overdrive. So we're going to come back to you guys in the next episode. Tune in as we go through the last 3 sides of the Rubik's Cube, and you're going to want to hear these ones, because these are the ones that will really help you scale to the next level. So to Lona, I'll see you on the next episode, lady.
See you there. Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.